The woman was shaking, soaked from the rain, hair clinging to her face like seaweed on driftwood. She walked into the office like she didn't care who saw her. Eyes bloodshot, a folded piece of paper clenched in her fist. My name barely got out of her mouth. "Are you David?" she asked, voice cracked like dry leaves. I stood. "Yeah." She dropped the paper on my desk. "That's your wife. And that's my husband." I didn't have to open it. I knew the names. Melissa and Theo. Her coworker. The man she said needed help finding a new apartment, someone to talk to, someone who could get him through a rough patch. The woman's name was Cassie. I'd never met her before, but somehow, she knew exactly who I was. "Melissa said you were kind," she muttered. "Figured you should see the truth." She walked out before I could ask anything else. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then I unfolded it. There they were, Melissa and Theo, caught in a selfie, barely clothed, tangled up in each other like they didn't care who saw them. The timestamp was from last weekend. She'd told me she was at a team-building retreat. No phones allowed. Company policy. The irony didn't sting. It sliced. Melissa and I had been married 7 years. Built everything side by side. I wasn't flashy, wasn't the kind of guy people noticed when I entered a room. But I was steady. When her dad got sick, I covered the hospital bills. When she wanted to go back to school, I picked up extra shifts. When she launched her home staging business, I fronted the capital. She called me her anchor. I should have realized that anchors don't move. They sink. It started with little things. Late texts from Theo. New clothes she claimed were on sale. The nights she came home too tired to talk, but stayed up laughing at something on her phone. I asked once, just once, if something was going on. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're paranoid." So I stopped asking. I started looking. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own house. I didn't accuse. I observed. I watched her phone when she left it on the table, read her laptop messages when she forgot to log out. Theo wasn't going through a rough patch. He was going through Melissa. She called him T. Said she loved his spontaneity. Said she wished I had his edge. Every message like a knife, sharpened with every emoji. My name never came up, not even once. They'd been seeing each other for almost 6 months. Most of it happened under the lie of support. Dinners that turned into hotel stays. Work trips that didn't include any work. I could have blown up right then. I had enough proof. But emotion is a liability when you're planning to cut deep. So I waited. I kept the house warm. Kept smiling. Kept pretending I was still the fool she believed I was. And I waited for her to make one mistake. That came 2 days after Cassie walked into my office. Melissa left her tablet open in the kitchen. A calendar notification popped up. Key drop-off, 7:30 p.m. Theo's. She didn't see me watching. When she kissed my cheek goodbye that night, said she had to meet a client who was super high-strung, I just smiled and told her, "Be safe." The moment the door clicked shut, I picked up my keys and followed. Theo's building wasn't far. Gated entry, digital buzzers, valet trash. I parked a street over and waited. She didn't see me. She walked in like she'd done it 100 times. 10 minutes later, the lights in the third-floor corner unit came on. 20 after that, they dimmed. I took a picture. Then I took 3 more. At work the next day, I asked HR to pull Theo's personnel file. Nothing formal, just a quiet favor from a friend in systems. We'd had drinks once, the kind where you trade harmless secrets. He owed me. That's when I learned Theo wasn't just her coworker. He was her direct report. Same department. Same project. Every meeting she claimed was offsite, logged under her team's budget. She was sleeping with someone 2 levels under her and expensing it to the company. The next day, I printed everything. Photos, messages, expense reports, a full bound dossier, and I slid it into a sealed envelope. I didn't confront her that night. I set the envelope on the dining table and went to bed early. She found it at 6:47 a.m. I heard the shuffle of paper, the intake of breath, then silence. She didn't come into the bedroom, just stood in the hallway, staring. "You knew," she said. I didn't reply. "You followed me." I turned toward the wall. "You lied." I verified. She tried to explain, said it wasn't serious, that it just happened, that Theo had been going through a hard time. That line again. Helping. Like this was charity, not betrayal. I got out of bed, walked past her, poured coffee like it was just another day. Then I looked her dead in the eye. "You're not coming back from this." She started to cry. I watched for a moment, then walked out the front door, coffee in hand. like it was just a regular Thursday. I didn't go home that night. I booked a room at the Marriott 2 exits down and checked in under a name I'd used once during a Vegas trip with friends, Dev Patel. The ID didn't match. I handed the clerk 100 and told him I lost my wallet, but needed a room quiet and cash clean. He didn't blink. By morning, I made 3 phone calls. My lawyer, my accountant, and a friend in compliance at Melissa's firm. By noon, I had what I needed. Copies of expense reports signed under her name, flights, dinners, hotel charges, connected to Theo. Enough to trigger an internal audit. Enough to get both of them fired. But I wasn't going to submit it. Not yet. I had something better planned. 2 days passed before Melissa tried to reach me. Missed calls, texts, a long email that started with, "I never meant to hurt you," and ended with, "Can we please talk in person?" I didn't respond. Instead, I met with Cassie, Theo's wife. We sat in a quiet cafe near her office. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you," she said, sliding her phone across the table. "I have some screenshots too, from Theo's iCloud." The screen lit up with messages. More proof. One from Melissa. "I just need to find the right time to tell him. He's so sweet, he'd never see this coming." She was right. I didn't. Cassie wiped her face with a napkin. "You gonna divorce her?" "Eventually," I said. "But not until she pays for every step of this." She stared at me, eyebrows pulled tight. "You're not like most guys." No, I wasn't. Melissa worked at a mid-sized interior design firm. Her division serviced corporate offices and high-net-worth clients. People who cared about image, discretion, and clean reputations. One PR scandal, and they distanced themselves like you were contagious. I knew the CEO personally. We'd met at a client dinner 2 years earlier when I'd helped Melissa land a major contract. He liked me, said I was the quiet one who pays attention. I paid him a visit. We didn't talk in his office. We talked at the driving range he visited every Thursday morning. I didn't show emotion. I showed receipts. "This is your employee," I said, handing him a folder. "That's a subordinate. These are corporate expenses tied to their affair. And this," I pulled the company handbook from my satchel, "is your own policy on professional conduct and misuse of funds." He flipped through the pages slowly. "You want her fired?" "No," I said. "I want her to sign a letter of resignation. I want a clean break. No lawsuits. No severance." "And him? Same deal? If not, this goes to every one of your clients. And your board." He nodded once. "Understood." Melissa was forced to resign that Monday. She called me, voice trembling, asking how they found out. I said nothing. She cried. I hung up. That night, she came home, probably to pack, but I was already there, sitting at the kitchen island with a file open in front of me. "What is this?" she asked. "A choice." Inside the folder were 2 documents. One, a clean divorce agreement. I'd waive all claims on her future earnings. She'd waive any claim to spousal support. No public scandal. No press. Quiet exit. The other was a lawsuit. Fraud. Breach of fiduciary trust. Corporate damages from falsified expenses. I had legal standing to go after her personal assets. She looked at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. Maybe she didn't. "I gave you everything," I said calmly. "And you sold it for 6 months of cheap adrenaline." I didn't mean. You never do. That's the problem. She reached for the pen, hands shaking. She signed. I let her stay in the house for a week. After that, she was gone. The firm put out a quiet press release. Theo was let go too. No reference, no payout. Cassie served him papers 3 days later. She got the house, the kids, and enough evidence to shut down any custody fight before it began. I moved into a downtown condo. Furnished. Quiet. Mine. Melissa tried texting once more, just a single line. "Do you still think about us?" I stared at it for a while. Then I typed. "Only when I need to remind myself who not to become." I hit send, then blocked her. It took 8 weeks for the dust to settle. Her things were gone. The mortgage was refinanced. Her name off everything. No keys. No access. No trace. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. I got a call one morning from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Cassie. "You need to hear this," she said. "Melissa contacted me." I called back instantly. "She wants to meet," Cassie continued. "Says she's sorry. That she didn't know what she had until she lost it. She asked if I thought you'd ever take her back." I didn't say anything. Cassie sighed. "I told her you were already gone before she realized you were even walking." Melissa hadn't moved on. She couldn't. Theo was a disaster, jobless, bitter, and now under investigation for misuse of corporate funds tied to a different client account. His name came up in a compliance audit Cassie's lawyer initiated. Apparently, he'd tried the same thing with another colleague. He moved in with his brother. Melissa moved back into her mother's guest room. Everything she thought was stable was gone. The life she traded me for had collapsed under its own lies. A month later, I ran into her. Unplanned. A downtown cafe. She looked thinner. Tired. The kind of tired that comes from running in circles with no finish line. "David," she said, like the word was foreign in her mouth. I nodded. "Melissa." She asked how I was. I told her I was fine. Then she said the thing people say when they've lost all power. "Do you think we could ever try again?" I looked at her. Not with anger. Just clarity. "No," I said. "Because I'm not the same man you walked away from. And you're not the woman I thought I married." She blinked. Tried to smile. It fell apart before it reached her eyes. "I didn't expect you to change so much," she whispered. "That's the problem," I said. "You never thought I could." I left her standing there. No insults. No dramatics. Just a clean, surgical goodbye. Weeks turned into months. Cassie and I stayed in touch. Nothing romantic. Just two people who knew what it meant to be dismantled by the ones they trusted most. Then, over time, something shifted. She invited me to an art gallery opening. I invited her to a rooftop dinner. No pressure. Just two people rebuilding. Carefully. Quietly. We're not rushing it. We don't talk about the past unless it's necessary. We talk about now. And what comes next. And that's enough. When people ask me how I stayed so calm, I tell them this. Because the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to be seen. Melissa thought betrayal was a storm she could outrun. She forgot some men don't chase. We watch. We listen. And when the moment comes, we strike. Not with noise, but with precision. I didn't lose her. She lost me. And in losing me, she finally saw the value of what she threw away. That was never revenge. That was reality finally showing up with the bill. And she was never ready to pay.